Good here? It is great to be with you guys. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. My wife drove up with me yesterday morning, and we spent a couple hours at, you guys have quite a nice zoo and botanical gardens here. Very nice city and state. You know, when you're kicking something off, like a new school year or a conference, maybe, you want to start on the right note, right? You want to have the momentum. You want to have positive energy with you. So one of the things you do to get yourself up sometimes is you run through a sign. You've seen folks run through a sign, right? So let's see how this works. I can watch this over and over. No, you're going the wrong way. All right. It's good to be able to run through the sign the right way. There's any number of ways you can try to get the momentum on your side. And so here's a silly way. I'm fairly low maintenance when I'm getting ready in the morning. I do it pretty quickly. Just shampoo real quick. Don't use conditioner. But my wife is always after me to use conditioner. She's like, Danny, I just think you'll notice a difference. Like your hair will be softer, more manageable. She's been after me for years to use conditioner. It's silly, I know. Well, a year or two ago, I was speaking at a conference, or it was an administrative retreat in Texas. And it was my first time, like it was a big engagement for me. It was my first time ever in Texas. The stakes were really high for me. I had built this up in my mind. I really needed to bring my A game, right? I needed that extra edge. So how am I gonna get the extra edge? I'm at the hotel, in the bathroom, and I'm gonna okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna use conditioner. I started off by saying it's a bit silly. So I don't know when the last time you were in a hotel bathroom is, but this is a picture I took, the counter. You'll notice that there's 3 bottles there. Anybody know where I'm going with this? So, shampoo, and I've got my hair full of hand lotion. So I had to use the whole rest of the shampoo bottle to get that out. So I'm up there speaking. I don't remember anything about the talk, really. I don't know if my hair was softer or more manageable. I do know this. My scalp was exceedingly moist. So, you try to get the edge. It just doesn't always work out. Doesn't always work out as you planned. Do you guys in South Carolina, do any of the schools here celebrate Red Ribbon Week? All right, so it's a big thing, especially with elementary schools in Alabama. And the last 5 years, I was speaking to, I was principal of a 6th grade school. It was a school that had 500 6th graders. And Red Ribbon Week, and it's about making good choices, especially saying no to things like drugs and alcohol. And so we have an assembly for the students. And I'm up there, and the gym is full of 511-year-olds. And I said, students, you're going to wake up in 15 or 20 years and you're going to have a life. That life you will have made will not have happened magically or by accident. It'll be the result of a million little decisions you make along the way. And I want you to be winners, not just on the ball field or in the ball court, but in the game of life. And to be a winner in the game of life, it's about making good decisions. So I wrote a poem for you. It's called Winner. And students, I'd like to share it with you. If it's okay with you guys, I'll share the poem with you. Is that okay? Good. I'm doing it anyway. But you got to be 11. Can you pretend to be 11? All right. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. Oh my goodness. I know it's the morning, but y'all, this is the audience participation part of the program, okay? And you got to be 11. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. If you want to be a winner, come and listen to my rhymes. Give me your attention and open up your minds and hear the words I'm teaching and preaching. I'm reaching for each and every one of you, trying to touch your heart. It's where it's got to start. And it's more than being smart, because you got to do your part. Life is full of choices. If you hear me, raise your voices. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. My friends, I got to tell you that you better be ready, because peer pressure's coming and you got to hold steady. Your friends aren't always knowing the right way to be going, and that is why I'm flowing, trying to help you to decide. I'm not saying run and hide, but they're not all on your side. You just got to let them ride. Let your conscience be your guide, because life is about choices. If you hear me, raise your voices. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. If you hear the words I'm saying, then you're going to do what's right. If you're making good decisions, then your future will be bright. It's choices that you're choosing. Have you winning or you losing? And it's really not confusing. Just do the best you can. You got to understand it's what makes a boy a man. You stand for what is right and you stand for what is true. If you win or if you lose, it's always up to you. Take pride in everything you do, because that's what it's about. If you want to be a winner, then let me hear you shout. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. Do you want to be a winner? Say hey. Hey. You rise above your fears and you rise above your peers. You keep persevering and you wipe away your tears, because this is not a game and it's surely not a joke. You mess around with life, it'll just go up in smoke. But hey, it's all good. Just do the things you should. If I were you, I would, because I want to win the game of life. You know I'm not lying. And you can win too if you never stop trying. To win the game of life, just think about your choices. If you want to be a winner, let me hear your voices. Can I hear somebody say hey? Hey. All the winners in the house say hey. Hey. That's it. Now, I realize I have no business up here doing that. I do realize that. That's not what principals do. It's not very professional. But my kids dig it. And bottom line for me is I want to do whatever it takes to connect with our students. And I actually had an 11-year-old boy meet me on the way to lunch after that and said, Dr. Steele, you were spitting bars. You were dropping dope rhymes. Those are both compliments. I'm going to miss those kids. I was speaking to Selena before the program, and this is my first time in 26 years not in a school building. And I'm working for a great university with great new colleagues, but I already miss the students and the teachers. And just the energy of a school building, I love. Never got tired of it. But my new job gives me opportunities to do things like this. And so I'm kind of experiencing your career with you vicariously. So thank you for being here, and thank you for what you're doing for the students all across the state of South Carolina. Well, now that picture's not supposed to be in here. That's a flashback picture. You recognize the dude in the middle? It's me in the third grade, 1979. I have two memories that really stick out from third grade. The first one is I was the fastest kid in the class. To a third grade boy, that's a big deal. Not just our third grade. In this school, this elementary school, we had 8 third grade classes. And there was a field day that year. And each class sent their representative to compete. And out of all third grade classes at that school, you know who won the 50-yard dash? You know Bruce Springsteen's song, Glory Days? That was it. That was my glory day, singular. So that's one memory from third grade. My other memory from third grade, I had a reading teacher who was always aggravated at me for not having my homework. I don't know that she was trying to embarrass me. I don't know that she was, but I wasn't a slacker kid. I had great parents, but that year was hard for my family. We were flooded out of our house, went through a tornado. My dad was unemployed much of the year. Our car was totaled. So it was a rough year. And my mom just didn't always have the wherewithal to make sure her third grade son has a special place to get his homework done every night. So most days I showed up to reading and I didn't have my homework. And I was always embarrassed. So one seed that I want to plant with you all as we're beginning this school year, you're not just teaching lessons. You're creating memories for kids. And some of those memories will stick with them for 40 years. You have no idea which conversations just resonate, which interactions were going to be difference makers. So please keep that in mind. As educators, as teachers, as administrators, as leaders, you have so much potential to impact students. I go through my job, we're all trying to make a difference. And the name of this talk is I'm the Difference. It's ultimately not about me being the difference. What I want you to understand is it's you being the difference. It's the potential that you have. And for me, I need to constantly be reminded. I want to constantly remind myself why I do what I do. That's what I tweet about, right? What are my core values? And then what does that look like during the school day? And so it starts in my office. I have a lot of different artifacts in my office that are significant to me. They're symbolic. There's a box of crayons. Do y'all remember what it's like to be a first grader? Do you remember how cool school supplies are? If you teach elementary, you still know. If you got little kids, you know. If you're secondary, you got to think back to when you were 7. School supplies were awesome. You go to Walmart or Kmart, you got them all organized. New pencils all lined up. A new eraser hadn't been used. A pencil pouch can be fun, right? A trapper keeper? Do they still make those? I don't know, but those will fire up a 7-year-old. A new box of crayons. All in a row. None of them broken yet. They're all sharp. And I got to school in the first grade with my box of 24 crayons. And I was feeling good. Until I got to school and Michael next to me had a box of 64. With a built-in sharpener in the back. Are you kidding me? And all of a sudden, I didn't feel so good about my box of 24. I was jealous. That's a silly, petty emotion, I get it, but that's where a 7-year-old is at, right? And I always felt like we didn't have a lot of money growing up as a kid. If we didn't go on vacation, we'd just go to see grandparents. Didn't go out to eat. If we went out to McDonald's, my brother and I had to split a chocolate milkshake. I have a memory of my family praying together for my brother and I, for $25 for my brother and I to play YMCA soccer. That was the registration fee that we didn't have. So for whatever reason, my parents didn't feel like they could spend the extra $2.50 for the box of 64 with a built-in sharpener in the back. And I always felt like I was deprived somehow as a kid because they didn't have that. I felt like I just missed out on life. So when I was a high school principal a number of years ago, in the summer, we went out to eat. The ladies in the office, counselors, registrar, secretary, bookkeeper, we were going out to eat in the summer and sharing stories. And for some reason, this childhood story came up that I shared about my sadness over never having a box of 64 crayons. I don't know why. It's a random story. I don't remember why it came up. But I didn't think much else about it. November comes around, and it's my birthday. And the registrar asked me to come into her office. And I come in there, and all the ladies from the office are there. And there's a gift bag. And I take out the tissue paper on top, and there's a box of 96. They've upgraded. There's a box of 96 crayons with a built-in sharpener in the back. And a little note stuck in the top of it that said, Thompson High School, where all your dreams come true. That's one of the coolest gifts I've ever gotten. As long as I have an office with a shelf, I will have that box of crayons sitting there. It reminds me where I've been. It reminds me how far I've come. It reminds me to not forget about the little things. And you know, I firmly believe that the best educators never forgot what it was like to be a kid. The best educators never forgot what it was like to be a student. So that box of crayons is in my office. I always loved Michael Jordan, and I was so inspired watching him play basketball and jump. And this picture was taken from a slam dunk competition where he was jumping from the free throw line. And I had this poster in my dorm room in college as an undergraduate. Then I became a teacher. I had access to a laminating machine. I laminated that baby, and it was in my classroom. As an assistant principal, that laminated poster was stuck behind my desk, all right? In my office, when I was an assistant principal, high school assistant principal for 10 years, in some tough schools, constant discipline. And so kids would come in and they could see it. And every student that was in trouble with a discipline referral, it seemed like they had an excuse, or they were blaming their situation on somebody, the teacher that snapped on them, the kids that are messing with them in the hallway, the parent that's not around. Everyone has something that they're blaming their circumstance on. And so I just typed up this little caption, I cut it out on a sheet of paper, and I taped it underneath it, and it said, "What are you rising above?" And I began using this picture as a springboard to talk to students. I would say, what does that mean? What are you rising above? Is that about MJ? Or maybe is it a metaphor about life? And you see, we all have challenges. We all have adversity. We can choose to feel sorry for ourselves and wallow in the gutter, or we can choose to rise above. And so that still sits in my office, hangs in my office, and it still inspires me. Are the students the only ones that I needed to talk to? Does anyone in here ever have adversity? I guarantee you'll have some adversity this year. There's going to be a lot of circumstances that you can't control. There is one thing you can control, and that's how you're going to respond to it. It's going to be your mindset. Are you going to give in? Or are you going to rise above? A plastic fireman's hat sits in my office. When I was an assistant principal back maybe 2002, 2003, first faculty meeting of the school year, a teacher told this little story. She said, 9/11, when the planes hit the towers, there were three types of people in downtown New York City. There were those who took off running the other way as fast as they could. There were those who were sort of frozen in place, just kind of staring at the carnage. And there were those who ran into the buildings. They were wearing those hats. And she passed out a red plastic fireman's hat to all of us. And she gave little stickers to us. And she said, write a motto on your sticker. And you can't read what my sticker says, but what I wrote is, I am somebody's hero. It reminds me that for some of our kids, the stakes are really high. It reminds me that this is not a profession. This is not a calling where we can just sit on the sidelines. We have to have the courage to be all in, to run in. This fireman's hat sits in my office and reminds me of that. Anybody know what football team that is? Notre Dame. So they have a tradition. They'll touch the sign as they're leaving their locker room to play a game. They touch a sign that says, play like a champion today. Now, there's lots of teams that have a tradition. They touch a sign, come back a winner, leave it all out on the field. Some teams will rub the head of a statue or something. Teams have different traditions. And it's just something symbolic. It's about internalizing or embracing a certain message or value. But I think that's a cool tradition. I'm all about symbolism. But I thought athletic teams shouldn't have a monopoly on cool traditions. So I emailed our staff and I said, if if when these students who had been in trouble, if they leave my office to come back to your room and they touch a sign, what would you want that sign to say? What message would you want ringing through their brain and their heart and their mind? And what we came up with, I am the difference. I had our carpentry program make this wooden sign. And over the years, I tried to cultivate a tradition of students touching that sign when they leave. This sign is made of wood. It didn't attach too well there to above the door. It fell off, hit the girl in the head, gave her a concussion, and I don't know about the concussion, but it did fall off and hit her in the head. So I had to invest in this other sign right here that's a little bit easier to touch, a black plastic sign. Are students the only ones that I needed touching that sign? There were times I would talk to the teacher in my office and say, please do me a favor, on your way out, touch that sign. It's my goal. I had our custodian touching that sign when she left our office. It is my goal that everyone in the building, students and adults, they own that message. Whatever the equation is, you are the variable. You are the one that makes a difference. And frankly, you're the only variable that you can control. You can't control the other variables. So, I am the difference. And you guys know about the value of positive phone calls home? You know, I would, for years, as a principal, I would encourage our students to call home, especially at the beginning of the year, make some good positive contact. Get started off on the right foot, talking to parents. And I encouraged our teachers to do that. It didn't dawn on me as a principal I could do that. I'm just calling home to say your kid's suspended. Or, why is your kid tardy for the 10th day in a row? Here's an idea, put him on a bus. But I got an idea off Twitter. Principals making 100 positive phone calls home by the 100th day of school. So that was my goal this one year, is to make 100 positive phone calls home. Well, I don't teach the kids. I don't really see them as much as the teachers. And so I asked the teachers, I said, will you please email me when you've got a student you really want to brag on? Email me what they did, so awesome. And then I'm going to pull them down to my office. I'm going to give them a fist bump. I'm going to tell them I'm proud of them. And I'm going to call their parent right there in front of them. And then when they would leave, I'd have them touch the sign and I'd take a picture of them. And it was going well. This is a girl, Maribel. Her ESL teacher sent me this long email about Maribel, saying she was new to the country, but she is so conscientious and diligent. She's a phenomenal student now. She's made so much progress with her English. And so she emailed me to make a positive phone call home. Maribel's mom did not speak English. And we were fortunate that one of the ladies in our office spoke Spanish. So I took this picture of our secretary calling mom. And I don't know if you can tell how proud Maribel is from her smile. But after she touched that sign, she was standing in the doorway. She turned to me and said, Dr. Steele, I've reached my 2 dreams. I've become a good student and I've learned English. Wow. That was like a highlight of my year. And I love sharing things on social media. And so I thought, I've got the picture, I can put it on Instagram, and this cool story about a girl who's reached her 2 dreams. And I wanted to inspire people. So I caught her in the hallway later that day. And I showed her the picture. I said, do you mind if I post that on my Instagram and tell this story about you? And I said, is that okay? She looked at me, smiled, and said, yeah. And then she said, can I give you a hug? Yes, please. Yo, it's so awesome. I love that moment. There's another phone call that I remember, though. Miss Longshore sends me an email. This is to make a positive phone call home. She says Sarah never brings her pencil, but this week she's been bringing her pencil like every day. That's it. That's for my positive phone call home. Bringing a pencil. I will confess that my emotional reaction to that email from my teacher was not very good. Bringing a pencil? Like, we're setting the bar a little low here, aren't we? That was what I thought. But one of my convictions in leadership is to trust my teachers. and to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that's very important. And so I brought Sarah down to my office, and I said, Sarah, Miss Longshore said, you've been bringing your pencil every day. I'm so proud of you. Give her a fist bump. She smiled. I said, can I call your mom? So I called Mom, and I explained to Mom how proud we are of Sarah for bringing her pencil. And Mom started crying. I was not prepared for that. She said, thank you so much for calling. You see, school is really hard for Sarah. And this is a victory for us. And so the pencil that I thought was really petty was actually really big. And it reminds me, I want to remind you all, as we go through this year, we got to celebrate the little victories, the baby steps. Something that might seem like it's small or insignificant to us, to the students or to their parents, maybe it's a big, big deal. Don't take any of those little victories for granted. We want to celebrate them all. Something else that sits in my office that's significant to me. It's the only school project I ever cared about. Really, it's the only one I remember, other than making a pyramid out of sugar cubes for a science fair project. 8th grade, Villa Rica Middle School in Villa Rica. Ancient. He had to have been at least 42. And to a 12-year-old, that's ancient. And he loved rocks. Like that was his hobby, his passion. He would spend the summer traveling the country collecting rocks and minerals and categorizing them. And I know he must have had a course of study and different standards he had to teach. That year, all I remember him talking about was rocks. He just loved rocks so much. And the project for the year for us students is we had to construct a rock box. There were all of these elaborate instructions, very, very detailed. We had these partitions made out of this really thick cardboard, and we had to take a razor blade and tediously cut all of these grooves. We probably couldn't be using a razor blade for that now, but so they all fit together like a grid to create 50 little compartments for rocks. And then he had this cover that we had to carefully glue and fold it around the edges. And you know, this cover, he said, is fire resistant. Like, if your house burns down, your rock box is going to be okay. Because, of course, in a fire, that's what you care about is your rock box. To an 8th grade boy, a fire-resistant cover really enhances the coolness factor of that project, though. I'm just saying. So here's the other thing. He said, I've got all of these rocks and minerals. And if you will memorize where the rock is from, what it's made of, and what its use is in society, like he had this list of 5 things you have to memorize about it. He said, I'll give it to you. I'll give you that specimen. Guess which 8th grade boy learned all 50? From 8th grade, that still sits in my office. Why does this sit in my office? It reminds me that passion and enthusiasm are contagious. Why did I care about this stuff? Why did I care about the rocks? Because my teacher was so excited about it. Y'all, if you can get an 8th grade boy fired up about rocks, you got it going on. This year, if you're a teacher, if you're not excited about your lesson, there is no chance those students are going to be excited. The enthusiasm that you bring into your classroom, the enthusiasm that you bring to your building, it makes an impact on everyone else there. We're all giving off vibes. It's just a matter of what kind of vibes are we giving off. And this sits on my bookshelf. Remember, these are all artifacts that are significant for me. So why is this significant? Why is this there? Well, this is from the sitcom The Office, and Michael Scott is this big doofus manager, kind of like me. It just reminds me to never take myself too seriously. It's important this year to be a little silly with your students, with your colleagues. Play practical jokes. Engage in shenanigans, some tomfoolery, some hijinks. When you're a little bit silly, when you let your hair down, when you're vulnerable, it makes you more human. It makes you infinitely more relatable. And that's got to be what we're in the business of, is creating connections. So don't take yourself too seriously. An activity we did with our faculty. See, these are things, those artifacts that are in my office, they help me remember why I do what I do, what's important to me. I wanted to do something with our staff that helped them stay connected to their core values. So at the beginning of the year, I passed out a copy of the Hippocratic Oath. Do we know what the Hippocratic Oath is? It's the oath that physicians take. It's a collection of their professional commitments. And so I said, I want you guys to read this oath. It's just a page long. And I said, underline or highlight the phrases that resonate with you, that have any sort of application to your world as an educator. And these are some of the phrases out of the Hippocratic Oath that our staff brought up. I will gladly share knowledge as is mine with those who are to follow. Is that good? Have any of you all been a mentor? Have any of you all benefited from a mentor? It's an important commitment to our profession to pour what we've learned, our experiences, into the lives of people who are coming behind us. I will not be ashamed to say I know not, nor will I be ashamed to call on a colleague when the skill of another is needed. Does anybody in this room have it all together? How awesome it is that we've got people from 17 different schools pooling our collective energy. We learn from each other. We learn from our colleagues. I will remember that I do not treat a fever chart or a cancerous growth, but a sick human being. I read that and I think, I don't teach second grade, I teach kids. I don't teach 10th grade English language arts. I teach young people. So after we talked about this oath, I challenged our teachers to think about what it is that would be in their oath. What is it that you're committed to at the core? What are your commitments to your students, to the parents, to your colleagues? This oath sort of serves to articulate what it is that we're about. Why are we coming to work? And so I asked them to write their own oath. I said, I don't care what the format is. It doesn't have to be in complete sentences. All I care about is that it is personal. Don't go on Google and just copy and paste some teacher oath, because you can find them. But I want you to write down some things that you truly care about. And so the next few slides are pictures, are lines that I took from our teacher oaths. And I asked them to put it outside their door, outside their classroom, or maybe on their bulletin board. The next year I asked the teachers to put it on their website. As a parent, would you like seeing what it is that your kid's teacher cares about? At the core, I'm not talking about the academic standards. I'm talking about something more foundational. Okay? And these are pictures of our kids and teachers. I promise to be the teacher that loves to learn alongside my students. Do we believe that? I think that collaboration makes us stronger. Does it? I am committed to making every child feel welcome in my class. Is that important? Oh my goodness, yes. I love I didn't write this. One of our teachers did, and that absolutely fires me up. That's something that fires me up right there, Kaylin. You know what? It doesn't matter how highly qualified you are. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have, how brilliant your lessons are, how innovative your project-based learning is. If your kids don't feel valued when they walk into your room, if they don't feel like they matter, if they don't feel like they're connected, it doesn't matter. This is so important. Is this important? You're going to have some students this year that at some point, they're going to need you to be their cheerleader more than they need you to be their instructor. There's kids in South Carolina that are dealing with a lot of stuff. And sometimes they just need to know that there's another adult who cares about them, who's in their corner, who's going to advocate for them and their future. I vow to quit teaching when I lose the passion it takes to be an extraordinary teacher. Boom! I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. Have any of you in your career ever worked with another adult who you wished had owned that? All of us have. I hope I retire from education before I lose a fire in my gut. This job is too important to not be all in. So think about what's in your oath. It's worth spending some time reflecting. It kind of clarifies your priorities, what it is that you're going to be about this year. And here's an exercise, sort of a thought experiment. Could your colleagues tell me what it is that you care about? Do your colleagues, do your students know what it is that you're really about at the core? My favorite thing about our school, probably, other than the students and the staff, was our wall of dreams. We got these 2 shower boards from Lowe's, our maintenance technician, and sort of spliced them together. It's 4 foot by 16 foot, 4 feet by 16 feet. It's a big whiteboard on a main hallway. And I went into each of the PE classes and I said, you guys, tomorrow you're going to all take a different color Sharpie and I want you to write your dream. And you don't have to know what you want to be when you grow up. If you already know you want to be a doctor or brain surgeon, lawyer, whatever, more power to you, write that. But a lot of kids, a lot of adults still don't know what we want to be when we grow up. So that's okay. All I care about is that you write something meaningful and personal. Like, don't write, my dream is to have an iPhone 15 or... I said, it can be something about this year or high school. I just want you to write something meaningful to you. That's the only thing I said to them. And that first year, these were some of their dreams that really stuck out to me. To be a 6th grade peer helper. To be a loving mother. These are written by 11-year-olds. To go to UAB, to go to Paris, to get first kiss. Hopefully not all on my watch. Right? Like I said, these are 11-year-olds. I had an 11-year-old write, I want to do something that means something. For 3.5 years, that's been the back wall of my Twitter account. This is still my goal. I want to do something that means something. This fires me up right here. These are some of the dreams from last year. I want to get a solo in choir. Now, these are still some of you still have some typical things. I want to be a professional soccer player. I want to be in the NBA. I want to be a rapper. There's a whole ton of 6th graders that want to be professional YouTubers. I didn't even really know that was a thing until we started this project and I got to see some of these dreams. I want to take my mom to an Aerosmith concert. That's kind of cool, right? Yeah. I want to be an immigration lawyer. You just never know what some of our kids are thinking about. You don't know what some of their hopes and dreams are until you ask them. I want the world to hear my voice. That's kind of precious right there. I love the fact that this is on a main hallway, that the teachers have to pass from the workroom. And I would tell my teachers, y'all, periodically read some of these dreams. Like, we're here trying to increase academic achievement. We want to raise test scores. Is there anybody in here who got into education to raise test scores? No. We're here to make a difference for kids, to inspire them and empower them to chase their dreams. I wish my dad was here. It's impossible to not read these dreams. It's impossible to read them and not be impacted on some level about what the kids are dealing with. I would like to find true happiness in myself. I wish my dad would get out of jail to live with my dad, to get over my depression and become a greater person. I need Blakely to set a higher bar. She's just trying to save the world, that's all. Fletcher said, I want to be remembered. That's kind of awesome. So this is a picture from 2 years ago. The students writing their dreams. This is like my favorite day of the school year when I see them write their dreams. And it's so cool to read them. Every once in a while we see one and I tell the counselor, we got to figure out who wrote this maybe and try to follow up. But it was going so well. This is a highlight. Everyone who visits our school, I take them to see this dreams. And inevitably they get a tear in their eye and they want to take a picture and share it. It's such an awesome, it's a point of pride for us, for me, this wall of dreams. And it was going well till I was pulling out of the car that afternoon and I get a text from Miss Sawyer, one of our math teachers. And she said, we might want to take a look at this one. And she had a picture of the dream. Be in Canada, far away from this stupid school. Oh. That's a blow to my gut. If I take pride in anything, it's our school's culture. It's that every kid feels like they're valued, that they like being there. And I got this joker. Not only does he think our school is so stupid, he's got to leave the country. I will confess that my first emotion when I saw this pop up on my phone, my first emotion was anger. How dare this punk kid screw up our wall of dreams? Very quickly, though, that emotion changed. And I was overwhelmed with some sadness. What would make an 11-year-old kid write that? And I began thinking of scenarios. Maybe his teacher embarrassed him on the first day of school and he just couldn't get over it. He never could move past it. Maybe kids are messing with him in the hallway or in the bathroom. No one will sit with him at lunch. So I thought of all these scenarios and none of them were good. And none of them are easy for me as the principal. Like, if the teacher embarrassed him or is messing with, is that an easy conversation with a teacher? No. Is the teacher meaning to embarrass? No, hopefully not. Is bullying, if it's a bullying issue, is that an easy thing to solve? No. You have any idea how sneaky kids are? Of course you do. But driving home, I knew two things for sure. I knew that I was going to get to school the next morning and erase what was up there. I just couldn't have it up there. But I knew I needed to follow up with this kid, figure out who he or she was, and somehow follow up. I didn't know what I was going to say or do, but I knew that somehow I wanted to connect. My PE teacher, because the kids would come out and write in small groups, my PE teacher was able to track me down the student. The students would tell the PE teacher, when they would grab a Sharpie, they would say what their dream is before they go and write it down. And this student came up and said, my dream is to go to Canada. And then added the other. But so we were able to track this student down. His name is Braden. And I got permission from Braden and his mom to share this. I pulled Braden into my office, and after making a little bit of small talk, I said, Braden, you got to tell me about this dream you wrote. Like, is our school that stupid, really? And I was braced for the worst. Like, I was nervous about what he was going to say. But my worst fears never came true. He said, well, the hallways are too crowded. Dude, I agree with you. They are too crowded. I'm sorry about that. I wish I could. We're just packed in like sardines. I can't fix that. I'm sorry. He said, and there's too many students in my class. Once again, Braden, I'm right there with you, man. I'm sorry. So after trying to validate his frustration a little bit and empathize with him and trying to give him a little bit of hope that next year the school wasn't going to be quite so crowded, and I was so relieved that it was nothing bigger. I said, well, Braden, we got this little hole right now in our wall of dreams. I erased the bit about our stupid school. So I would like for you to be able to write up another dream. Like, is there something that you really want to do? Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be a 5th grade reading teacher. Are you kidding me? I literally jumped out of my seat to high-five him. I'm like, Braden, that's one of the coolest dreams I've ever heard. A 5th grade reading teacher? Why didn't you write that the first time? It would have saved me so much stress. So he goes and he writes his dream up there. And we take a picture. That's Braden. A couple weeks after that, his hair was mostly blue. Braden just sort of marched to the beat of his own drummer. And so if you're me, if you're the principal of a 6th grader, and he's just told you that his dream is to be a 5th grade reading teacher, what do I have to know? Who was Braden's 5th grade reading teacher last year? I'm dying to know. I'm thinking that's a teacher that somehow made a mark, right? That's not arbitrary. So the intermediate school that fed our school is right next door. We share a lunchroom, so I walk across the breezeway. It's easy for me to track down who Braden's reading teacher was last year. Her name was Katie. And when Katie taught Braden, she was a first-year teacher. First-year teacher. And I wanted to go introduce myself to Katie. And I wanted to tell her this story. I kind of had a hunch it would make her day. If you were the teacher, would you want to hear this? So we're outside, and I'm telling her this story about Braden and his dreams. And her eyes are getting wet. And I finish, and she said, I had no idea he liked school. I didn't even know he liked reading. Why is this story significant to me? It's significant because it reminds me that as educators, you guys are making a profound difference, and sometimes you don't even know it. You don't even know it. You know, as educators, you're planting seeds. You don't always get to see the harvest. You invest yourself into the lives of kids and colleagues. You pour your energy, blood, sweat, and tears. And sometimes you get burned. Has anyone in here ever been burned? Or is it just me? You get burned sometimes, and you just don't see the fruit of your labor. You don't see the dividend of your investment paying off. But you keep doing it. Because that's what you do. You're educators. So please know this year, as you're working with students, and you might feel like the kid still has a chip on his shoulder. The kid is just as apathetic as can be. They won't lose that attitude. You might not see the difference, but please know, you have no clue. You are making a difference, even when you don't see it. Another whiteboard, smaller board, 4x4 feet. It's right outside our main office, and I asked all of our staffs to write their hopes and dreams for our students. These are not hopes like I hope our kids bring all their school supplies to class. I hope I don't get any knuckleheads on my roster this year. That's not the hopes we're talking about. I hope our kids learn how special they are. I hope our kids understand how much potential they have. Our maintenance technician wrote, I hope our kids learn the value of failure and that we can learn from our mistakes. Something else to keep us grounded. And I love the fact that the parents have to walk past this on their way into the office to check out kids. I want them to see what it is that we're about. Ultimately, what we're about is students. This is not an original idea. None of these ideas I came up with. I wish I could claim credit for any of them, but I can't really. Some of y'all have maybe done this, but we took a bus ride before school this year of different neighborhoods that our kids are coming from. And some of y'all have maybe done that, but it's valuable to see where the kids live and the different neighborhoods they go home to. For years, my screensaver on my computer was a running slideshow of all of our kids' faces and their name. And on a practical level, it helped me learn kids' names. It's important to learn kids' names. But you know I like symbolism. What is the symbolism here for anyone who comes by my office or walks in my office? This is what they're about. They're about the kids. Everywhere we turn, it's something about the kids. I got this idea several years ago from someone on Twitter. Birthday selfies with the principal. How silly is that? If it's your birthday, I'd give you a shout out on the intercom and I'd have a copy of your schedule. And at some point in the day, I'd go and I'd get you out of class. I didn't announce to the students what we were doing. I didn't say, okay, this is a new initiative coming from the principal's office. I just started pulling a kid out of class. I'd say, hey, is today a big day? Yeah. How old are you? I'm 12. Well, happy birthday. And I'd give him a fist bump. You having a good school year? Yes, sir. Hey, you know what would make my day? Could I do a birthday selfie with the principal with you? Okay. You know, these are 6th graders. So I hold up my phone. I learned some things over the years. Initially, I was having the phone here, and this girl explained, no, you need it up here. We don't want the double chin. So I learned some of the nuances of selfie technique. And so we would take the selfie, and I would say, who do you live with? I live with my mom and dad. Hey, can I text this to your mom? So I would text the picture to the mom from my personal cell phone. I was a little bit nervous at first. How did that go over with mom? Oh my goodness. Can I put this up on our Facebook page? Thank you for caring about the kids. I had parents say, this is the only reason my kid came to school today. It took on a life of its own. I'd get to the door, before I even say, can I see John? Everyone says, John, go get your selfie. And I had a kid walking out one time, I'm not making this up, walking out, before I even said happy birthday, he said, yeah, I know, my dad's putting it on Twitter. It became a big deal to these kids. Normally, another thing I learned is ask the kids if the picture is okay. People are sensitive to their picture, and so to no kid falling through the cracks. We want everyone to feel like they matter, like they're valuable and that they're valued. We don't want to overlook anybody. When you're trying to be awesome, and that's usually my goal, I'm not interested in mediocrity. Sometimes it's about taking risks. Normally, when I would rap, I would just do it by myself. I also wrote a rap for our standardized test score that I was trying to motivate the kids, and normally I'm just rapping by myself. But this year I found out about these 2 boys that love rapping, Trenton and Marquise. And so I'm like, okay, I'll try to do it with them. I'm just saying, rapping with 2 12-year-old boys is taking a risk. Do you think the school, the kids enjoyed it? Do you think these kids will ever forget it? It was fun. You got to bring, whatever it is you do, you got to. And I found out I didn't get it. Our school was, our test scores were awesome. High staff morale. Our faculty was crushing it. And I applied for this cool award for our school. And I got a note in the mail that we didn't get it. So I was struggling. I was discouraged. And my brother knew that I was down. And he wrote me a note. We don't get a lot of handwritten notes in the mail anymore, do we? At work, I'm just getting junk mail. Catalogs of stuff that I don't need, couldn't afford if I wanted it. But there's a note, a little card addressed to me. And this is a portion of what the note said. Dear brother, we never know what a year will bring, but we know what we will bring. We will bring the awesome. And that will leave the year to fend for itself. There's going to be a lot this year that you can't control. You can't control the students that are in your class, maybe. You certainly can't control the parents. Can't control the emails that flood your inbox. There's a lot, though, that you can control. Every single day this year, you can control the positive energy that you bring to work. Every day this year, you can control your passion for making a difference for your students. Your commitment to serving your colleagues and making a difference for them too. Turns out you can control a whole lot. It is a mindset, and awesomeness is a choice. Thank you guys so much for what you do, for your commitment to students, your commitment to making a difference. Your job is not easy, but it's so important, and it really matters. Todd Whitaker says the great thing about teaching is that it matters. The hard part about teaching is that it matters every day. But think about Braden, and think about the fact that you never know the difference that you're going to make. There could be students this year whose life trajectory changes because of you. You're not just teaching standards. We do care about outcomes. We do care about student achievement. But we're creating brighter futures for kids. You guys do great work, and it's been a joy to be with you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Hope you guys have a great school year.